Hi, everybody. My name is Neil Wainwright. I'm the founder and CEO of UpHabit, and I'm here to talk to you about Iterable's in-app messaging to infinity and beyond. So I want to talk to you first about the challenges that we had with what we want to do with our product and how we wanted or hoped Iterable would help us with them. We're going to talk about the possibilities that Iterable's given us and their great engineering team. And I'm going to talk to you then about six capabilities that we implemented with Iterable. We just loved the product and it worked perfectly, and I'm going to show you how great it is. And the final slide I'm going to talk to you about is how to reach me and any resources you might need to do the same thing that we did with your product in use of Iterable. So a little bit about why we needed Iterable so much. UpHabit is a professional network manager. It's basically something you need and use throughout your entire work life to build your network, own your network, and maintain your network. And as you can see with the screenshots in front of you, we care a lot about user interface. We're mobile first. We have reminders, notes, tags. The way we describe ourselves is everything your address book and LinkedIn should do, but they don't. So we also care a lot about releasing high quality software. So you can see that we did 92 releases just in last year. And by the way, that's with 6 engineers. I did 92 releases. And actually even better, 105 backend releases on top of that with the same 6 engineers. So our challenge was we tried with another platform. We gave it about a year. They had good email and push systems, but they didn't have, what was really unusual to us is they didn't have staging and production environments, even though it was with a large company. So there's not a lot we could do to do testing before we went into production. So that wasn't something we were comfortable with. But the main thing is they didn't have in-app. So, when we met Iterable, we actually really liked the team, and they were just releasing their in-app product. It wasn't even out yet, but we liked the team so much. We said, okay, we're going to take a leap of faith and we're going to watch the Iterable in-app capabilities unfold. So as you can see, a deep user interface experience means we need to focus on email. We need to focus on push, but we don't want to spam people. So a lot of our messaging we want to do in-app. So that's why we're so excited to work with Iterable. So how did it go? Well, the basic Iterable in-app platform, because it's an SDK, it installs in your mobile apps. By nature, when you send an in-app message, Iterable has to handle the whole user interface experience. So what that means is it has to be modal, which means it comes on top of your content. And it can be very, like this is a simple button, but you can actually do very fancy looking graphics, and it's basically HTML. So you can do all kinds of CSS to make it look better, but it's still something that goes on top of your app. And we wanted a more immersive experience at UpHabit. So we basically started asking questions of Iterable. And what they did is they said that, there's things that we can do to make these things a sublime experience. So that button, that hello world, all of a sudden, if you look in the top half of our application, you'll see a thank you message thanking people for doing a review on the app stores. You can see that there's a button there that says welcome. And if they click on that, it's just going to close that particular message. But it's actually not modal. So actually in the app, you could scroll around, navigate tabs, do whatever you want. And that message will stay until the user dismisses it. But it's not something that prevents the user from their experience of using our app and working with our product. You'll also notice, by the way, it says email us. That actually, if you tap on that, it's a deep link to the, in this case, the iOS mail app, and it'll compose an email straight to us. So it's basically awesome. And I'm going to show you what we've done with it. So we actually added 6 in-app capabilities. Some of them we leveraged Iterable's existing infrastructure, and other things we actually built ourselves. And I want to describe to you how we did that. So the first thing is that integrated UI. And the way we did it, you can see here this custom payload code basically at the front. If for all of you that have used Iterable and you've gone in, created an in-app message, you'll notice that there's this section that says custom payload, and it's optional, but it's actually awesome. Because as you can see, we defined, I think it's about 10 different properties in that custom payload. So location, any. So if you look at our app along the bottom, it says today, relationships, introductions, discover, and settings. Well, we could actually target that in-app message to any one of our tabs. And that's just something that we designed that we wanted to do. Then you see it says header and it says thank you. Well, look, it's in blue. It's in a beautiful font, San Francisco font in the app. But what you see in the JSON is just thank you in just plain text. And that's because we intercept the messages that Iterable sends from their backend infrastructure thanks to their SDK allowing us to, and then we process the messages ourselves. So we use Iterable for its strength and power, which is the workflow and all the processing that it does and the messaging it does. And then when it came to the UI, we said, okay, we're going to do our own UI, but we're going to use the power of Iterable to get all of the content to the phone in basically real time. I don't know if you've used Iterable in-app, but it's like a second, maybe two, and that message is on the phone. It's amazing how quickly it works. So I just wanted to show you that's what happens. It basically allows us to build a beautiful integrated UI. So the second thing, server-side animations. You'll see the little light bulb that's flashing in the animation to your left. Well, that's actually something we actually started when we worked with Iterable. We thought, well, we're gonna put a bunch of animated GIFs in our app, like build them into the source code, and then we're just going to call on them through the Iterable custom payload and trigger whichever one we wanted. And I sat back one day and I said, well, that's going to be kind of a bit difficult, because then every time we want to put a new image out, we've got to actually release a new version of our software. And I didn't really think that was the most optimal. So I think it was one afternoon at about 1 p.m. I said to one of my engineers, I said, hey, Forward, can you take a base 64 encoded image? And he said, yeah, I think I can. I said, oh, okay. So I turned to our senior UX designer and I said, hey, Lisa, can you give me a base 64 encoded image of, I think we used the dancing pickle or the dancing banana as a sample. And she gave me a base 64 encoded version of that image. I stuck it in an Iterable snippet. And for those of you that use Iterable, you know what snippets are, as raw text, and you can see it on the right. And then we referenced it in the Iterable in-app message as, in this case, clip animated app tutorial image. It's all highlighted there in the center. And all of a sudden, this beautiful animated image gets delivered in real time to the phone and pops up. Now, all of a sudden, we don't really have to worry about doing a new app release every time we want to, put out a new image or a new animated image. We just literally put it as a snippet in Iterable and then consume it with the in-app messaging capabilities of Iterable. So it's awesome. Another one is properties-driven content. So for those of you that use Iterable a lot, you know that you can use handlebar logic in your emails and your push notifications. But the cool part is you can even use it in these custom payloads. So as you can see here in front of you in the center, it says, if you're too busy, tap on the snooze button beside today to spread out the today badge count reminders. And you can see the handlebars around it, the two squirrely brackets around them. And what happens is, if you look on the right, it'll say spread out the 2 reminders. By the way, we don't actually trigger bulk snooze for just 2, but I did it for the demo. But you can see we can insert all kinds of values and everything in your in-app messages in real time. And it just, when the in-app message fires, that content is inserted. In this case, it was an integer property that we had at the user record level that we were actually referencing in the in-app message. And you can also, by the way, have very complex statements. One of the simplest ones is, let's say that today badge count was 1. You don't want to say 1 reminders, because it wouldn't be grammatically correct. So you can wrap it around with if statements and all that stuff and handle it appropriately as to whether the S appears. Okay, so platform-specific messaging. So that's kind of interesting, because when Iterable at the back end delivers an in-app message, if you have some of your customers that have both, like might have an iPad and an Android phone, when you deliver the message, it might be a message that's only specific to one of those platforms. Like, hey, please rate us on the App Store. You don't want to send a Google user to Apple Store, and you don't want to send an iOS device to the Google Store. Well, given that Iterable, you will know that you have 2 platforms, but it doesn't have a way to target a single platform with a particular message, we actually decided to handle it ourselves. And you can see down in line 11 of this custom payload, we added a property called platform, and it either says iOS or Android. And if it says iOS, it's only going to show up on iOS. And even if the same customer has 2 devices on different platforms, we'll, on the in this case, non-iOS platform, will discard the message on Android, so they won't see it, and vice versa. And we actually used this capability when it came to asking our customers to rate us on the app stores. We certainly want to send them to the right store if they're kind enough to want to rate us. So server-driven workflows. This is my favorite. I have a long background going back decades with workflow systems, and what Iterable does is just amazing. In this case, you can see here that what's happening is, we talked, you saw earlier where the message said, hey, if you've got a lot of reminders, you can click on the snooze button to push them off into another day. Well, this is part of that logic happening right in front of you. You can see there's a custom event saying the today screen was viewed. And then we see if the count in terms of number of people in today is less than 30. And if it's less than 30 and it's more than 5, and we've never actually pointed out the feature to them, so they were a new user, we send them the bulk snooze tip. That's kind of in the first column, second from the bottom. And then we write a user property that says, hey, now we've sent them the bulk snooze tip. That means that we're not going to keep sending them the tip every second day because it would drive them crazy. But if they have a lot of people on the Today tab, and by the way, you can see a delay for 7 days, so it's been more than 7 days, we send them a little reminder, and that's what you saw. The little reminder that says, hey, if you didn't know, and you're feeling a little anxiety because you got a lot of people to talk to today, you can click on the bulk snooze button and spread people out. It's no big deal, no problem. And by the way, it won't spread out birthdays and anniversaries because that would be bad. Those ones stay where they are. So next, there's behavior-driven interactivity. And hopefully you can understand this slide. I'm sorry, it's my most busy. But you'll see at the top, there's an arrow pointing down. So we basically do an in-app message, and it's staged, I think, every 90 days, because that's what Apple and Google want us to do in terms of asking users for feedback and ratings. We say, do you love UpHabit? Let us know how you like the habiteer experience. And if they say yes, it goes to the left, which is a workflow and iterable. And if they say not yet, we pop another message that says, how can we make it better? And a button that says, email us. So then when they do that, it taps an email straight to our support team, and we can support those people directly. Now, if it goes to the left, so you said that you really like the habiteer experience, we find out whether they've rated us yet, because we have a little query there that when someone says they're going to rate us, we store a property. And then if that property hasn't been stored, then we know to send them in-app messages that say, rate us on the Play Store. You can see that one listed there. And you also see at the bottom, it says, rate us on the App Store. So that's where we're using that platform flag I mentioned earlier, where the first one to the Play Store would say platform Android, and the other one would say platform is only iOS. And that way, even though it looks like 2 messages are being sent, only one is being displayed to the appropriate device. And as you can see here, we ask if it's 5-star worthy, if they're going to rate us, and if they tap that, we take them straight into a deep link so that they can rate us on the stores. And I think we're about 4.7 out of 5 right now, so things are working. So in summary, in terms of the 6 things that we did, it's an integrated non-modal UI, and we have complete control over it from our UX team, and we love that. Server-side animations, I thought that was just a game changer. We did it all in an afternoon. We had it working from start to finish. Literally create a snippet, insert it in the JSON payload, and then have it display on the phone. Not through the App Store approval process, but all of it internal. Properties-driven content is awesome when you want to create a unique and personalized experience for your users. Platform-specific messaging, that's really important in a lot of situations. You might even have a new release. We do this all the time. When there's a new release on Android, we'll send it out platform-specific message only to the Android users. And the iPhone client, when it gets that message, it just discards it. The user doesn't even know it came in because it's not applicable to them. Server-driven workflows, that's the power of Iterable. I think our welcome flow when you sign up is 92 nodes, by the way. You don't get 92 emails. It's not that. There's a lot of branching and conditions based on your, how you've got things configured and what we need to coach you on, or what we should coach you on to help you through the process. So it's only like a handful of messages, if that, over 2 or 3 weeks. But these server-driven workflows are amazing, and that's a real strength. And my hat's off to Iterable. And the final one, of course, is behavior-driven interactions, where you can kind of build some pretty cool workflows. Like we even use we call it Clippy, by the way. If anybody remembers Microsoft Clippy, we call it Clippy. Not typically publicly, because people have mixed emotions about Microsoft Clippy. But you can do some pretty cool things. And we use segment. So when you're tapping on the buttons in our clip messages or in our clips, there's 3 different buttons up to 3 different buttons we can display. And each one of those buttons, when you tap on it, will fire a different segment event, which then flies into Iterable. And then we can do more Iterable workflow based on which button people click to create a much more immersive experience for our customers. So I wanted to thank the Iterable engineering team. They can't save the world, but they can make it a better place. A great workflow design environment, strongly multi-channel, native in-app support, extensible SDKs. That was the real key for us. I was nervous asking the questions. I was like, is it possible that we could actually do our own work? And they said, oh yeah, we made it that way from day one. And then that was just like wonderful, because then we could just use those custom payloads as one little paragraph of blank space, and you can do kind of amazing things with just that little bit of real estate. So I'm happy to talk to you anytime. This is my QR code on the right-hand side. So if you point your phone at it, it should give you all my contact info. UpHabit's a very privacy-focused professional network manager. We care about privacy a lot. And that's actually one of the other things we really liked about Iterable is their privacy policies were really aligned with ours. And it's something we felt really comfortable with. And finally, I'd love to see you in the networking lounge to answer any questions you might have about UpHabit and what we've done with Iterable and how much we appreciate what they've done for us.